Great. All right, perfect. Well, let's get started, team. Well, thank you, everyone. So we're good. All right, perfect. So happy Tuesday. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the webinar today. We hope everyone is looking for an informative evening or morning, depending on where you're logging on from. We definitely do have a few different time zones joining us today. So thank you to everyone for logging in from wherever you are. I'm in Australia myself, out of our Collingwood office. I know we've got a few New Zealanders on the call, and obviously our co-hosts from the UK are joining us too. It's definitely an early one for the team in the UK. It's 7 a.m. So we won't ask for a weather report or anything like that. We might get that later on. I know it's definitely different to what we're experiencing here down under. So for today's webinar, we'll do our utmost to finish on the hour mark, so plus 58 or 56 minutes from wherever you are, and we'll call the webinar, we'll share the slides too, so feel free to make any notes as we go. We also really encourage everyone to ask questions within the chat, and then we'll have one of our team members answering back within the chat function itself, and then we'll also have some time at the end for questions. So feel free to everyone have your cameras on or have your cameras off. We promise we won't bite, but there will be some time towards the end of the webinar where you can take your mic off, ask questions, but please just keep it up until then. So firstly, we'll just start off with an acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands, the Wurundjeri people of the nation on which we are today. We recognise their connections to the lands, waters and skies, pay our respects to the elders past, present, and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. So to start us off, a big welcome to June, Nick and Alyssa, our co-hosts. We'll be saying an introduction in a second. And we've got a really exciting webinar today, everyone, one that I'm really looking forward to and really proud to co-host across with June, Nick and Alyssa. We'll be discussing many things today, including all of the exciting things about working in early years or early childhood education. We'll use that term interchangeably across the webinar, no doubt, and talk about all the amazing things about working in early years in one of the best cities in the world, London. We'll also talk about how ANZ UK and the London Early Years Foundation can support your journey. So a little bit of what we'll cover today. So we'll be giving an introduction to ANZ UK and LEYF, and I know a lot of people might already be familiar with ANZ UK. For others, it might be the first time you've heard of us, and I know likely for many of the Australians and the New Zealanders on the call, and I just might mute your mic, sorry there. You might be the first time you've heard or just starting to develop an awareness of the London Early Years Foundation. So we'll go into plenty of detail about that in the upcoming slides. It's definitely an exciting partnership that we've formed together as we're very much aligned in our core values and our purpose as two entities. So just briefly, for those who don't know, the London Early Years Foundation is the UK's largest charitable childcare social enterprise, with a growing family of nurseries across London, numbering at 40 currently. So during the webinar and the upcoming slides, Nick and June will talk all things UK Early Years and the London Early Years Foundation. And having spent time there personally myself last month, the nursery is a truly amazing learning environment to make such a positive impact on the children and communities across London. So I'm very excited for everyone to learn about that throughout the webinar. ANZ UK Education, if you haven't heard of us, we're a global education recruitment agency. We've over 29 offices across the world in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK and the USA. And our goal together with LEYF is to help educators from across the globe make the journey to the UK and positively impact the children and communities across LEYF's nurseries. So we'll do meet the team. Obviously, I've done a brief full introduction, but I'll let the team give them a proper intro themselves, Nick, Alyssa and June. We'll touch on why work in early years education. There might be many different reasons from everyone on the call. It might be a new challenge, wanting to develop your career, a personal thing, wanting to travel, have Europe on your doorstep, meet new people. But we're really excited to talk about your journey and how we best support that. We'll run through the benefits of working with ANZ UK and LEYF. This photo here is one of the big ones, our community and relationships drive. ANZ UK and LEYF, we're very aligned in our community focus, and the events you'll be able to come to before or after your potential trip down the line, which we'll talk about how to get to that stage in a minute. The process, so we'll talk through the steps involved in the process on the webinar, but we won't go into a lot of detail or much at all in terms of the visas or, specifics on where to live or anything like that. And we will save that for the follow-up and another webinar, which we have next week, which is more a generic one. So jump on our events page, you can tune in for that. And then any burning questions. So we really encourage everyone to make a note, post into the chat. We want this to be as interactive as possible. You'll be hearing from all of us on the call, but we do want to hear from you as well. And yeah, excited to work through it all. So we'll keep on going through the slides. I know we did start a little bit late. So before we go through the introductions, I just wanted to throw to a quick poll before we introduce everyone on the call, just to learn a little bit more about everyone who is tuning in. If everyone just wanted to post into the chat, just everyone get the chat function up, where are you logging in from? So whether that be Melbourne, where I'm from, maybe it's Auckland, maybe it's London, perhaps. So everyone just wants to jump into the chat and then just post where you're tuning in from. Awesome. So we got a nice bit of a mix there, which is really good. A few Melburnians, which is great. Geelong, the Philippines as well. Russell was speaking on email as well, which is great. So good to see you tuning in. Awesome. So we'll get stuck into the personal introduction. So I'll sort of go off the top. So my name's Tyler, and I'm the overseas recruitment team leader with ANZ UK. And I've over 6 years experience working across our London and Melbourne offices. I'm originally a PE health teacher with 1.5 years experience in the classroom. I was lucky enough to live in the UK for 4.5 years from 2016 to 2020. My time in the UK mixed from being in the classroom or working with our London team as a consultant and team leader. Moved home in 2020 myself, and pretty much since then have been helping educators make the same journey that I made 7 years ago, which feels like it was yesterday, but it is a long time ago now, and really passionate about helping educators make that same journey that I made. One of the best decisions that I personally ever made, and yeah, excited to see how we can assist anyone else on the call who wants to take that same journey. Fun fact, favourite country is Greece. Crete is the #1 spot there, really get to Greece. And I was lucky enough to do a lot of travel in my time. So I will throw to Alyssa to lead off, and then June and Nick, and we'll get stuck into it.
Yeah, hello. Hi, I'm Alyssa. I am the early years recruitment specialist here. Got about 10 years experience in early childhood, and I'll touch on kind of my journey a little bit later in the slides and how I've come to being in this role and chatting to you all today. I mean, in London, I live in London currently. My favorite place to travel on the weekends is Italy. Nice EasyJet flight over to Europe. And then a bit of a fun fact is I'm playing AFL over in London and will be representing Australia in France this year. So it's crazy the opportunities that come up when you are on the other side of the world. Easy, right? We'll go over to June. Potentially. Or Nick, do you want to take over first?
Well, I think June's there.
Oh, there he is. Yep. There you go.
Good morning. My name is June. I'm the CEO of the London Early Years Foundation. You can probably tell I'm in London. I've got 68 layers of clothing on me. I am very happy to talk to you all. We've had very positive experiences working with our Australian colleagues, and I've had very happy friendships in Australia. So it'd be great to welcome more of you to come and join us and enjoy London and enjoy working with LEYF. As the format is, you must say your favorite country. I love to go to Italy. It's the best place. I mean, obviously I should say Ireland. I'm Irish, but you know, after Ireland I'll go for Italy. And my fun fact is I'm part of a women's community choir, which is a big thing in London these days.
Awesome. Thank you for that, June. Nick.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm the Sustainability Manager here at the London Early Years Foundation, but I'm also overseeing all of this project with the amazing ANZ UK. I started early years 17 years ago as a young whippersnapper apprentice. That photo was probably taken 17 years ago. I would look a lot different from then, but it's a nice photo, so I keep using it. I worked all my way up to being a manager when I joined the London Early Years 5 years ago. I worked up to being a senior manager where I oversaw another 8 nurseries alongside an AOM. And then I've been here as a sustainability manager for 1.5 years, which I oversee everything around environmental sustainability, social and economic sustainability. My favorite place is Croatia. If you get to go to Croatia, I would highly recommend it. It is absolutely beautiful in every sense of the word. Dubrovnik, Split, everything there. Nice weekend trip. And my fun fact is I'm an avid gardener and a propagation expert. I can literally grow anything from anything. It's a weird skill of mine, but I grew lychees in a locker at work. I can grow anything from anything. So it's just a random strange fact about myself.
And a listener and I can attest to that because we've had lucky enough to do a visit with Nick across a couple of nurseries, and he is a green thumb. So there's yeah, definitely a lot of proof in the pudding there. And awesome. Well, thank you for that. Just a quick one before we throw to you, June, to run through the next couple of slides. Just keen to know what everyone, just now the poll essentially, if everyone can just list in what your experience is in early childhood / early years education. Whether you're a diploma qualified or whether you've got 5 years experience as an ECT, everyone just wanted to post into the chat what your experience is within early years, early childhood education. Samina, thank you. So we've got 1 ECT off the top, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate that. Nice, great. So a good mix there from ECTs to diplomas, a little bit of everything really, which is good, and it sort of speaks true to where everyone's logging in from. We've got definitely a mixed bag, which is great. So everyone keep on posting in the chat, and then feel free to chuck questions in there as well. But June, if you wanted to go from the top and talk about the amazing London Early Years Foundation, I know everyone really wants to learn more about it.
Thank you. So the London Early Years Foundation is a social enterprise, and what that means is that we put everything we do is all about how we can advance the lives of children, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. And so we were actually a charity set up a long time ago, but we are the first and the largest social enterprise in childcare in the UK. And the point of it is that it's not fair that children, because they're born into poverty, are actually disadvantaged in terms of the benefits they can get from early years education and care. So the model we have is that we subsidize quite a lot of our children. In fact, we try and subsidize at least 35% of them. And not just that, we also site our nurseries in areas of poverty and deprivation. Now, for those of you who've never been to London, that sounds a bit scarier than it is, but actually in London, it's very mixed. And so you can go from one road where all the houses are worth, many millions of pounds, and round the corner, you'll find a small little place where there might be quite a lot of poverty in it. So we try and create that kind of community partnership model where the nurseries are in those areas where we can actually have children from both the high end and the low end together, and then the model enables both those children to grow up together. Because in the end, it doesn't actually matter whether you live in a council block or whether you live in a very, very fancy house. The fact is, everyone wants their children to feel safe in that neighborhood and be able to walk to the shop to buy their treats safely. So that's the attitude we take, that actually let's own that space, create an engaging community space, know what goes on everywhere around that space, and actually those children from all the backgrounds kind of work together. We're just doing a bit more research on that, about the benefits of children from all communities, all backgrounds and all social backgrounds coming together. So that's the model in a sense. That's when we talk about social enterprise, that's what we mean. It's about fairness and it's about a duty to all children to do the best. Now, London has 33 boroughs and we work in 12 of them. And the 12 we tend to work in are right in the centre. So that actually most of our nurseries are what they might call inner city. And so that's kind of where we're based, and we base them in clusters. The idea being that you could cover for another nursery down the road, or you could spend a week in another nursery down the road, because even though they're like literally next door to each other, the vibe is different. Every time you cross the road, there's a different vibe. So it's very interesting that we have a model, the LEYF model, and I'll tell you about the pedagogy in a minute, but actually how that's translated in every nursery is slightly different, and there's a different feel and a different vibe in every nursery. If you want to just, thank you. Our social purpose then therefore is to increase access. There's not a great dissimilarity to what happens in Australia and New Zealand in terms of the model, that their government provides some funding and parents top up the funding and then they pay their fees. And so that's the model here. The difference is here the government is less generous in its contribution, and so therefore we have to figure out a way of making sure that more and more children can access that by giving them more and more of a subsidy at our end. And so that's what we intend to do, and that's what we try and do in terms of our model, because we really want those children to have access to high quality. There's a raft of research that you're very familiar with, given that so many of you have got bachelor qualifications and ECT qualifications. You'll know that actually the benefit to children of having really high quality education and care is significant. And so therefore our point is, let's just see what we can do. And we talk about it in terms of changing the world one child at a time. And you guys will know that every engagement you have has got a chance of improving or supporting that child's learning and that child's life chances. So, whether you're changing a nappy and singing a song, or whether you're doing a planned provocation, or whether you're taking the children on an outing, it actually doesn't matter, because each of those engagements are important. So that's really the model. And also for me, it's very important. London can be quite a changing place. I've lived here now 40 years, and the area changes, and it moves quite significantly. But what you have to think about is that, and a lot of children come to us from different parts of the world. We have about 102 spoken languages across the world. And what's really interesting, across the nurseries rather, and what's really interesting for us is that we have to help those children find their place in the community they come into. But we also do, and the best way to do that is to understand the community they come into and bridge those things. So there'll be people who've lived there all their lives, who've got a real sense of history about the area, and there'll be people who are new into it. And it's how do you create that mix? And so for us, community is really important. So one of the things you'd find yourself doing is getting on the London buses with your children and just going and traveling around, or walking your neighborhood and mapping out what you do and with the children, because the visibility of the children in the area is important, and that people love to see them and talk to them. But on the other hand, also you understanding what neighborhood you live in is very important as well. So traveling to the library, traveling to the local community, traveling to the cafe, going shopping, all part of the day, but all central to how we see the importance of our social purpose. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because this is just really in a way, sort of confirming what I've just said, I hope, which is really about our sustainable business model. The thing about being a social enterprise is that you have to balance your social purpose, your economic purpose, and your environmental purpose all together in a kind of sort of like three pillars. And so what we mean by that is that we have to have fees that'll work for people, and therefore so that we can have a sort of constant cycle of income coming in. That means we can do more with it. So not only do we then think about the needs of the children, which are really important, I mean beyond important as far as I'm concerned, everything starts with the child. Then actually what happens then is, what else can we do that actually is beneficial? So we talk about the community a lot, but that also means bringing people through from apprenticeships, older people who may be isolated. Loneliness is a big issue across the world these days, giving them an opportunity to work with us. So it's about how do you think this through in terms of the social benefits. For example, I think it must be about 10, 12 years ago, we really kicked off the London and then the UK actually, men in childcare campaign. It didn't make any sense to me that half the population is male, half the population is female, more or less. And we had something like 2% is the target for men in childcare. I just thought that was fundamentally wrong. So we've built up a big campaign on that. Our numbers are higher, not great, but they're much higher. And we've done a lot of work on apprenticeship, like, for example, having a male-only apprentice cohort, which was very interesting to then track and see what's different about that from a mixed cohort or a more female-dominated cohort. So these kind of things are very interesting for us, because they, in a way, they allow bigger conversations across the organization, and also more interesting opportunities for staff who are engaged in those kind of sort of journeys, really. And that's one of the things about being a social enterprise, is you're always kind of trying to balance out what makes you sustainable, but what makes you socially sustainable, and then what can you do in terms of, your kind of how you tread much more lightly on the planet, and what we can do on that as well. And so I think any of you who've studied will recognize some of the model here looks a little bit Bronfenbrennerish. And I know for some of you, it's very early in the morning to be talking about Bronfenbrenner, but there is a kind of sense of ecology here and a sort of ecosystem. And you do find, though, that sometimes the child isn't always number one. Sometimes the system is number one and the child is further down. But actually, I reckon that if you put the child right at the heart of it, then it's much easier to build the services around that child and to keep bringing it back to, is this good for children? When we were building the LEYF pedagogy, which I might be on the next slide, I'm not sure, that's really the most important thing to me. Pedagogy for us means how do we lead the children to learn and what do we do about that? When I was designing that, maybe 10, 15 years ago now, I worked a lot with my Australian colleagues and I really loved some of the work, but to be honest, it was the Tifariki that at New Zealand that was really, inspiring as far as I was concerned. And I think it was about the late 90s when they were building that curriculum in New Zealand. And I wrote to the New Zealand education minister. I mean, who was I? Just wrote to them. And I never forget it. And I'm always grateful because they sent me a draft of the work they were doing at the time on the whole Tifariki model. And I was so blown away by it. It was so beautiful. And so I loved the whole connection with the community. And it really helped me to formulate my thinking as well and overlay it. So for those of you coming from Australia and New Zealand, you probably would be very aligned with the pedagogy work that we do here, particularly the belonging, being and becoming. And I noticed the other day I was doing a webinar with colleagues in Australia with Western Australian University. And it was really interesting to see that now in the reviewed version of the belonging, being and becoming, they have actually integrated sustainability, which I know we quite like to see here as one of our battles here in your early years learning framework for Australia. We're trying to get similar done here, but also love some of the reflections and the amendments that you've made to your document and the way you've laid it out. So really interesting alignment. I have a horrible feeling we haven't got a slide on our pedagogy, which are 7 strands. We might have, I hope we do, but if we don't, we have 7 strands in our pedagogy, and they start with leadership for excellence. And from that, you get to, the spiral curriculum. And again, if you're interested in research, we are really keen on it because part of learning for excellence is all about action research. And so if you're interested in something, I love to give you the chance to actually drive some action research in the nurseries and test it out. Now, it could be anything from you noticing something happening in the nursery. You're thinking, I don't think that our boys are having as much fun as we could be doing for them, or they're not learning so well when I measure against what the girls are doing. And we did have that with maths and boys, and we discovered we weren't really doing enough maths outside. And all LEYF nurseries, the children have to be outside a minimum of 2 hours. And at the moment in your lovely warm country, that feels like a perfectly normal thing. But here, when it's cold and wet and raining and horribly icy this morning, it might feel a little bit more of a challenge, but actually you get very into all of that. But we do know that boys learn, all children learn well outside, but boys particularly. So we did a piece of research on that. We did, we're doing a piece of research on our sustainability, which Nick will tell you more about. We do research on all sorts of stuff. I'm really interested in babies. And I hope some of you are interested in coming love babies, because babies are the best. So in fact, what we say is babies are fantastic. So, what are we doing around babies at the moment? We're really looking at post-COVID stuff with babies and babies' attachment and babies' language. And, are we connecting well enough with babies? What, is our practice great enough with babies? So it often comes from you guys. You say, I was reading this, or I was talking to my friend. My best friend lives in Tasmania, and I often have long chats with her about, she runs nurseries over there and in Victoria and a few in Adelaide. And I often talk to her about different models and different ways of doing things. And it's really that it sends me back, and I then talk to some of our staff and say, are we doing this? Are we doing that? And sometimes I'm so surprised by the wonderful things that people are doing that I've missed. Even though I visit quite often, it's like, oh my gosh, they're so thoughtful. Because I think the freedom that you need to have to be creative in your pedagogy is so important. So if we were to do an analysis, I know Tyler's asked you about what qualifications you've got. If I was to ask you what gets you up in the morning and what's your best thing in the day, I often find, and it'd be great to hear you tell me that, but it's like, it's creativity. It's being allowed to run with the children. It's being allowed to think about the way they're going down particular routes and be able to follow that and be able to create some, extraordinary things. London is a superb city in the sense it's got so much. And when a child is interested in something, there is so much to do. So all children across the world seem to be obsessed by dinosaurs. And you take them to the Natural History Museum to see the biggest and amazingest dinosaurs, and just to open up their their opportunity to talk about them, to learn to categorize them, to understand, the periods they come from. All of those things are so exotic and so important and so wonderful. And children kind of drive that learning for you. So it's like, what I'm saying. So London offers those kind of opportunities to that aligns with our pedagogy, which is really all about how do you take the children's interest and really drive it, and how do you make it part of the community that they're into, and how do we allow your interest to drive those experiences for children, so that actually there you go. So absolutely. So I'm looking here at Abhishek Sharma, who's telling me that what gets her up in the morning is that when the children run to the fence to welcome you. So many LEYF staff would say the same thing. They've been away, they come back, and the children just completely connect with them. And there's a whole lot of research done over here, and I think they're doing it as well in Australia and certainly in New Zealand, around professional love and the sense of loving those children and those children loving you back. And that's a really powerful thing for us. I really want to nurture that. But also, one of the great things that it seems to me, comes from working in our sector is you make some amazing friendships. And it's funny, it's like when something is not happening, and you wonder about somebody and you connect with what's going on, you realize there's a whole network behind where they all know each other and they're all sort of understanding and supporting each other. And these friendships are across the world friendships. You make friendships because we have staff from everywhere. So it's a really wonderful experience for people to get to know how other people think about things. And it kind of goes back to our values of sort of brave and inspiring and nurturing and fun. And these values really came from the staff. And I was so delighted when they put the word fun in, because sometimes when the government gets hold of early years, or when it becomes all very academic, amiced and stuff, actually some of the things that you miss are those joyful, fun experiences that children bring, and you just have those belly laughs with them where they are hilarious. We have a thing called helicopter time that comes from a work from Vivian Gusson-Paley, and it's really about encouraging language, and we're all about language at LEYF. We're all about language, and language builds cultural capital. And so what happens at helicopter time if you don't do it is the children sit around. We have two members of staff. They make up a story. One of the members of staff writes the story. It can be no more than one page, and then the children act it out. Well, the children's imaginations just run wild with these things, and then the stories are posted for the parents to see. And it's like, it encourages language, it encourages creativity, but then it leads to very interesting things where the children can be taken off to do stuff, or to go as a consequence of the story that they've created. You can end up at the Transport Museum, you can end up going on the tube. Not so long ago, we have a new tube line called the Elizabeth line, which is very lovely actually, and very handy for you because it takes you to Heathrow. And the children went on there as one of the first users of that tube line. Off they went down, they tracked it, they videoed it, they made stories of it, they came back, they acted it all out in their drama, they filmed it, they played it back to themselves. These kind of things are real fun, and they tell a story of where you are and how you're part of it. This nursery happens to be in Soho, right in the heart of the city, right where one wouldn't expect to find a nursery. You don't think of Soho and you don't think of nurseries, but there's communities living everywhere in the city. So really, really fascinating kind of opportunities that come from it. And it's all benefits when people come from other parts of the world and enjoy that and are part of that and add value to that. So I'm sorry that we haven't got a slide on our pedagogy, but we'll make sure that Tyler has one that he can actually share with you at some point, or we can always do more of this. This is just our intention of where we're aiming to go. We can move on from that. That's about expansion. You know, more children need more LEYF. These are the things we do, which I think I hopefully given you some flavor of. Sadly, you will see on the left we have food bags, because 7 of our nurseries are really felt that the parents were really struggling, so they set them up. They've now become kind of part of the way we kind of support parents in some nurseries. Home learning is really important to us. We do quite a lot of stuff on that, and if that's an interest of yours, I'd be delighted to bring a different perspective to it. We talked about action research and the pedagogy, the Global Academy. You know, you can come to LEYF as level 1 and you can leave with a master's degree, and that's the whole journey that we're kind of interested in. So you'll be all coming in at level 5 and 6, but in fact, you know, there's opportunities for you to do all sorts of things and to become interested. Did we know we were going to have a sustainability manager? No, we didn't. But it became very clear to me that we needed to be doing much more on that. And then as we worked through COVID, Nick and I developed a program. We wrote a book. I've just written a book with another one of the managers on diversity and inclusion. There are opportunities for you, if you're interested in things, to do things that are interesting. And so the other thing was the same. Australia and New Zealand as well have the same problem here, but we have growing obesity issues in small children. And I was really worried about that. We were working with the Mayor of London on it. And I was thinking that, you know, the way we might be able to address it, we can't address the complex thing on our own, but what if we trained our chefs? And when I did all this research on chefs, there was no real proper training for them around food. So we've developed that. We've written the program, first program, got involved. People like Jamie Oliver are very interested in our work. And so we are now the biggest and the first early years chef academy in the UK, and hopefully wanting to expand it out and beyond as well. And then finally, then some of you might be interested in special educational needs, but we have a forum on special educational needs, very interested in that. You can imagine a nurseries a group like ours is likely to be taking more children with special educational needs, some medical, quite a lot language delay, and the joy of actually taking those children and actually moving them forward and, you know, pushing them through, you know, the system and actually getting them really supported is very, very I think very fulfilling in lots of ways. And we have a lead manager, Maria, who's worked with us for years, started off as a nursery teacher and now moves all the way through. You'll notice we call our staff teachers, they're LEYF teachers, because the role is about teaching, because teaching and caring and teaching are totally integrated. And the art, craft and science of early years teaching, you know, can't be underestimated. We're not watered down primary school. We're not, you know, a bit of practice and a bit of something else. We're a science in our own right, and the way we teach is scientifically proven to actually make a difference to children. So we really honor that, and our staff are all LEYF teachers, and the expectation is that they spend a lot of time teaching through talking and playing and setting up provocations and having fun, being indoors, being outdoors, being out on the street, and building good relationships with each other, with the children, with parents and with professionals. So these things all matter to us. They're very, very important. And I would say finally, my last slide, I think, should be. Yeah. So I don't know in the UK how much you kind of take notice of it, but I know that there's been some big conversations also in Australia and New Zealand about the importance of early years. The Princess of Wales has got right behind us here. She came to visit us, I think was last year. God, time goes so fast. It could be, I think it probably was. And she's very interested in the work that we're doing in the early years, and we're in a position of advising her on some of this. And the rationale for this is that when she was looking at all the charities that she supports, what she could see consistently was that all of the children are all of the people that she then, you know, that she kind of sees in prison, drug addictions, disadvantage. The link that she noticed, or the common denominator she noticed, was their early years was very unsatisfactory, damaged, poor, not good enough. And she began to think, you know what we really should put our efforts into is the early years. So she's right behind us on that now, and has got a campaign called Shaping Up, and we've been part of some of that. Again, being in London, and one of our nurseries is the Houses of Parliament. You get quite a lot of political visitors. You may want to run for your life on that, but we do get quite a lot of people come and visit us, because when you're in London, you can. It's much easier, and it's easy as a city. It's easy to get around. We have very, very good public transport network that makes life much easier for people. So I'm going to stop there, because I think it'd be nice to hear from your fellow compatriot, Nick. But I'll take any questions at all that you want. You can see on the map here, it mightn't mean much to you really, but you can see where we're based. Some names might be familiar to you, some not. I guess it depends on which TV program you've watched, but that's where we're at. We always continue to expand, and you will see that there's clusters, which is why they're all sort of in little like blocks here. And that's important for us, because you build your network, you build your friendships. We're not interested in nurseries randomly stuck all over the place and just acquiring for the sake of it. So we're all about the clusters. You'll notice there's one just out on the left here, which looks like it's far away, but it's not really. And Emma runs that nursery, very lovely in there, but that's a workplace nursery. That was one we were testing the water around workplace nurseries, but that actually is quite close to Earls Court, and so it seems like it's far away, but it's a lot of green there. So Richmond is a very green borough, with the large Richmond Park and the River Thames running right through it. It's a nice place to visit. It's a nice place to live, but it's kind of expensive. But the rest in here is all very interconnected and very lively. And actually, London is a very green city. I think it's the greenest city in the world. And you'll be surprised just how much green there is. And every little place has its own quirky parks and scrubland and various bits of green and spaces for the children to enjoy as well. So it's not a big conurbation full of just buildings. It really isn't. It's got its own secret villages. So all of these places here you're looking at are like villages in themselves. So Battersea is a village, Brixton is a village, Peckham is a village, and you get to know that very well from your. So I live here somewhere near Brixton, in a place called Crystal Palace, and we are like a little community up here in ourselves. We have our community choir, we have all sorts of things, our book clubs, all kind of things going on. You find that in all the little neighborhoods that really are kind of hidden there by these great big red balloons. But actually London is basically a city made up of villages, and then you connect. Okay.
June, thanks so much.
The history of London.
Yeah, inspirational stuff. Yeah, and I know everyone on the call will be very excited to sort of continue to learn more. So, Nick, just before we throw it, you might just go to everyone for a quick poll. I know we've obviously got the map up, so it might be familiar with everyone, or it may not be. Everyone just wanted to post into the chat, and then we'll hear from Nick about the ins and outs and how to turn what June said into reality. So, if you've been to the UK before, just post into the chat, and you can go if you've been to London as well, if you'd like to. But keen to know if everyone's been to the UK or London before.
Just while that's happening, Tyler, just to reiterate what June was just talking about, if you can see where Stratford is there, those 3 red dots, that's next to one of the biggest Westfields you have, and one side is completely multi-million-dollar apartment blocks. The three ones there, that's actually the highest Edaki rating in all of London. So it's the income deprivation affecting children index. So it's in one of the most affluent areas. We're actually about 100 meters next to Westfield. We managed to take on 3 nurseries just at the end of COVID, I think, June, which we're going to be in the middle of it. Which were going to be shut down if not. So that nursery, that community would lose their hub. They would lose, the children wouldn't have access to high quality education. The teachers that work there would lose their jobs. So just to reiterate what June just spoke about, the biggest Westfield there is one of the most affluent areas next to it. And then 100 meters across from it is the highest deprivation of income around children. So it's incredible, sorry.
Perfect. Well, it's yeah, great to know. A lot of these areas too are very connectable to where people might want to live as well. So, you know, if you're wanting to live in some of those hotspots of Clapham or an East London, a Hackney, or whatever it is, the beautiful thing about the LEYF nursery is you're very, very well commuted for areas that you might be familiar with or have friends that have potentially lived over. But there's a really good mix of people that have been to the UK before and a couple that regularly go as well, which is great. Nick, did you just want to, maybe we can start running through, obviously we've got some of the location options there, which we've touched on, but just in terms of when people can arrive and, you know, what sort of options and opportunities are available for everyone on the call.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, Tyler. So we've actually organised 4 cohorts over the next year. And the reason why we've organised cohort dates is that we can really offer the support that you'll need when moving to a new country. So your first week with us is a complete week of induction with our L&D team. So our learning and development team will walk you through our pedagogy, safeguarding, moving to the UK. You do helicopter story time, which June mentioned. You'll do woodworking. You'll do outdoor learning. You'll do fire pit. You'll do everything and anything that we need to get more comfortable within the UK. But then we also have the welcome team around it. So our welcome team will be showing you the sites. They'll be doing wellbeing checks. They'll be helping you navigate London. There's welcome packs as well. So we'll show you how to use the tube. We'll show you how to set up a bank account. We'll help you with navigating if you need the NHS or if you fall ill or anything like that. We chose the 4 reasons, the 4 cohorts is basically we can offer you as much support as we physically can to make sure you're comfortable, you're settled, you're nurtured when you move into the UK. That doesn't mean you can't start at other times throughout the year, and we're more than happy to look at those options, but these weeks are already booked out with our L&D team, and they're absolutely brilliant, award-winning L&D team. So it's a great week. And we're taking you to see the sites. We're taking you to Matilda the musical. We'll take you to all sorts. We'll get you integrated into London in the best possible way.
Yeah, so we know it's a big move for everyone as well. So, you know, you might be thinking, July sounds great, or you might potentially be in a contract now and you might think that seeing out the rest of the year could suit you. It's a big move, and we know everyone has to make it at the right time for them. And that's where ANZ UK and LEYF will be there to support your journey whenever it's the right time for you. So yeah, we probably step through some of the steps in the process as well now, Nick, just so everyone can sort of understand, you know, from here, you know, where they could be going.
Yeah, perfect. So the first point of contact will be the amazing ANZ UK. Alyssa, who you'll get to talk to very shortly, is your point contact. She has done this journey before. She knows the ins and outs of early years. The move from Australia to here, even just being an expat, she'll be able to talk you all through that. It may be a member of her team, but Alyssa is your go-to girl. From there, you'll have a pre-screen with ANZ UK, where they'll talk you through all of the different aspects of it. They'll ask you some questions. They're value-based questions as well. If they're happy to move on, which I'm sure they will be because you're all going to be brilliant, you go to the next stage, which is the pre-screen with LEYF. So the lovely Naveen and Sarah, who you'll get to meet as well, they do all your pre-screens. And then once they go through that stage, the next one is with myself and one of our amazing AOM. So I'm your point of contact. I will be with you every step of the way here. I will have my email address, my phone number, everything you need, but the interview process will be with myself. Typically from that, you'll know within 24 hours. So ANZ UK will be able to help you, but with the qualifications, we'll actually have them converted for you as well. So with the information pack, you'll have all the visa information that you need. It's an amazing, amazing slide. It shows you the ins and outs of what visas you can do, you can't do, what you need for the visas, the costings around it. That's going to be in the information pack that we'll send out afterwards. But just for a quick touch, we'll also talk about in the Q&A, if you have a Cert 3, that's the equivalent of a Level 3 in the UK. If you have a diploma, it's the equivalent of a Level 4, and then a Bachelor is a Level 6 here. But we'll be able to help you with all of that anyway, and we will have them converted with ICTAS, I can't remember, yeah, there's a new name, it used to be NARIC, but we'll have them all converted for you, so we just know 100%, but we can help you with all that as well. Once you've had the feedback, typically within 24 hours, you'll know if you're successful and what cohort you're going on, and then we start the compliance side of things. So we'll help you with your police check / DBS check, we'll do your qualification conversion, anything and everything you need to help getting set up for the UK and the big move and everything like that. And then we organize your start date, you start the cohort, you start your induction, and from there, once that happens, it isn't just a thanks for coming. Every step of the way, you will have someone there. If it's not ANZ UK, it will be from LEYF. The wellbeing group are doing wellbeing checks every month. You have the weekly check-ins with myself and the welcome group, who Laura, you'll get to meet, is absolutely brilliant and is full of rainbows. But from there, every step of the way, you'll have someone there. So you will be supported with every aspect of moving to the UK.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I think it is, like we said, it's a very exciting move as well. It's great to see so many people on the call that are interested in making the journey over to the UK. Before Alyssa, we'll chuck to you now in a second. I did forget to go to a poll, so I do apologise. I'll go back on a slide just to learn a little bit more when people might be looking to go. So obviously, these are the 4 cohort options we've got. But if your plans differ, obviously we can cater to that as well, as Nick mentioned. So if everyone just wanted to post into the chat when you might be looking to go, and then we can hear from the lovely Alyssa to talk about her journey from down under all the way over to London, which is an exciting one. So if everyone just wants to let us know when they're looking to go. Thanks, Victoria and Hayley. So we got October. And then April and Hayley, you've already, you're fully in the midst of your plans. And we've been speaking together for a while now, so which is obviously really exciting. And you came to an event recently too, which is great. So it's good to see some familiar faces in there. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Well, Alyssa, whilst everyone just keep on posting into the chat when they're looking to go, we want to hear about your journey because it's definitely an exciting and unique one.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I moved over to the UK about 3 years ago. So prior to moving, I was living in Melbourne, Australian myself, and was working in early years. Similar to Nick, I started off as an apprentice and then continued to work my way up to managing a nursery, an early childhood centre in Australia. And that was a really big step for me to see that there was such an impact that you can have on a child's life in such a short period of time. And that really sets in stone kind of what I wanted to do and see how I could change that and make an impact. And that was kind of going, okay, well, then let's switch different pedagogy and move over to the UK and see what happens. Bit of a challenge, gives you something of an experience. So I jumped on the big tin bird and came over here. I've now been here for 3 years. So I started off nannying when I got to London and found a direct way to impact a child in that way. I was like, okay, yep, this is great, this is good. What else can I do? And then I worked within a school setting, but in a nursery. And so I was teaching a 3-year-old kindergarten room and worked with that, had a great connection with the families, and I was in a really affluent area. So it was a very different form of education that I was teaching compared to what I was doing in Australia. But I mean, all in all, the experience that I've had here is just so different to what you would experience in Australia, but yet so similar. So if we jump to the next slide, I'll kind of touch on why I moved to the UK. There's so much opportunity. Not only is there theatre, do you get to impact children in a nursery in a different pedagogy, you can go and explore. I mean, now that COVID's somewhat settled, you can just jump on a plane for your Friday afternoon after you finish work, you just jump into Stansted Airport and you go over to Europe. Like I flew to Croatia, to Paris, to jump on a train. It's 2 hours. I mean, it takes longer to fly to Sydney from Melbourne. So I jumped on a train 2 hours and you come out and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm in Paris now, what do I do? It's just such an array of opportunity here that I guess you don't really find yourself having in Australia or New Zealand or wherever you are from. Not only is there that opportunity to travel, you have the experience to make another community here. Some of my closest friends and friendships that I've had in my life have been made here in the UK. You can travel with them, you explore, you're kind of having an expat community, you have an education community. So those like LEYF, you will have people in your settings that you'll make friendship with. You'll find you have very similar interests, and it will be like going to the pub after work, things like that you kind of don't really find. And normally there is not a day where you won't find something to do, whether that's going to a gig, going to the theatre, going to the pub, just enjoying yourself. There's always something to do. And I think that was one of my biggest adventures here, is always having that accessibility to enjoying that. So moving on, I guess something that we do here at ANZ UK is helping you navigate. And in partnership with LEYF, we've got those opportunities where you are being able to integrate into the new city. So you can see all the locations that we have available to help you find the right place for you. So yeah, if you do want to come over and yeah, I want to live southeast, or you go, actually, looking at that map terrifies me because I have no idea what London is or how big, like how far the places are. We're here to help. We understand the tube situations aren't always easy. I still get on the wrong one, so don't worry. You will find that will happen. And that's why we're here to support you, because Nick's done it, I mean, Tyler's done it, Mel's done it. We're all like that. We all understand what your journey is going to be, and we're here to help. I mean, it's hard. You're moving across the world. But that's what we're here to support. And I think that's testimony to ANZUK and LEYF to be able to partner with each other to make sure that that is a seamless journey for you. And I guess when you do come over, if you go, yeah, I love the UK, I've done my 2-year visa, but I'm now ready to go somewhere else. The good thing is with ANZUK is where we are global. So there are many places that you can go. So I know for me, I can go back to Australia, continue to work in education and be supported. I can go to New Zealand. I mean, I've done Europe, but I've not done New Zealand. A bit of skew there, but eventually I know I can go to New Zealand and work there and be a part of that amazing early childhood teaching group there. Or if I'm coming to the UK and I go, you know what, I don't think I can quite do London. There are so many opportunities. You've got Wales, Bristol, Surrey. So there's other places that you can go to really feel comfortable and supported in your environment, which is quite nice. So there's always that 360 support and choice to find a place that's right for you.
Yeah,
and
just
then,
to touch on that as well, Alyssa, I was going to say that's one of the big benefits of having our team locally here in Australia and New Zealand, that if the time zones aren't working for the team in LEYF and in the UK and Alyssa, you can always reach out to us out of our Australia and New Zealand office as well. So at any point across your whole journey, you'll always have someone you can reach out to locally or abroad over in the UK. Sorry to jump in there, but I just wanted to.
You're fine. Unfortunately, you can't get rid of us now. That's the thing. We will be calling you, making sure that you feel supported. And whether that's when you get to the London going, okay, actually, I just need to know where I can find a good coffee. I was going to Pret and I was nearly crying because I was like, this is not the coffee that I want for my day. And now I know where to go. So we're here to help. Not only do we create, well, I mean, I guess our partnership with LEYF is really beneficial because we share the same values. So something that we really believe in and really support is creating exceptional experience for educators and children. It's the be all and end all. If we are not making sure that what everyone's doing, they're enjoying and they're creating an exceptional experience, then we're doing our job wrong. So we believe in being great. So belief, equality is our B. And then our great is our growth, relationships, and power, attitude, and team. And everything we do incorporates this. And I mean, LEYF talk about having fun, and we do as well. So we want to make sure that we can support that. So our goal is to make sure that we're placing the right teacher in the right classroom every time. And you can already see with June's chat with their pedagogy here at LEYF, it is the right classroom. They're here to support the children, and that's why we're here to support you. So we're here on that journey with all the early years opportunities here in the UK, which is exciting. And I mean, not only is it us that support, for example, on the next slide, you'll see Ben, who's our Managing Director of ANZ UK. We host multiple social events. When you get here, even before you depart, there are social events. But Ben currently comes to all of them. Occasionally he'll bring his daughter with him, and pub quizzes, and you just get to meet the community that you are incorporated with. So Ben has been there from the start, making sure that from the get-go, when they started, that they weren't just putting anyone everywhere. They were putting teachers into quality education. And that's something he supports and is thoroughly involved in. And you will see him at all of our social events in the office, whether it's talking about rugby or talking about the current news in education, like the upcoming strikes. There's always something that you can chat, be passionate about with that. So it is a great opportunity to be able to join in with us here at LEYF and ANZ UK.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
great. Well,
sorry, Alyssa, I was going to say we've done an amazing job to stick to time considering we actually started a little bit later. So hats off, Big Jude, Alyssa. I won't give myself a pat on the back, but in terms of we really want to allow some time for questions. I know there'll probably be a few burning ones. I know Mel's done an exceptional job of answering some within the chat. So if everyone either you feel free to turn your camera off, you can put your hand up, talk, not too many rules we've got set here, but if everyone wanted to chuck some questions into the chat as well, we can probably just pick out a couple. I know there was a few that were left that were posted in the login as well, which we'll talk about. I know one was already covered on where the boroughs are located. I know June and Nick touched on that earlier, where the LEYF nurseries are across the different boroughs. But yeah, is there any questions that we wanted to pick out, Alyssa, Nick and June, from this?
I can see one from Kanchana. How about lodging? Do you help in that area too? We're actually quite fortunate that one of our trustees is the CEO for the London Hostel Association. So we've organized with him that says there's 4 hostels that you can be based in, and it's 24 minutes door to door to the nurseries. These are en suites. There's the LHA rewards program as well. So the longer you stay, the bigger discounts you get. It's also 1 week's notice. So once you start forming that community, that network, you might find 2 or 3 friends that you do want to move into a flat together. It's a week's notice, but they're en suites, they're comfortable, they're some of them, all food is provided as well, so you're saving money on that side of things. But depending what time of your year you're coming, if you're in the July cohort, I can pretty much tell you, you'll be outside 99% of the time. Once you've finished work, you'll be in a common, you'll be sitting in a beer garden, you'll be seeing art gallery. Summer in London is absolutely brilliant. So these are just temporary accommodations, but these are 22 minutes, 24 minutes door to door.
Awesome. Great stuff. I've got a couple I can quick fire answer. Russell, yes, you can use your Australian driver's license. After a year, you need to then get a UK driver's license, which is relatively easy to do, but your local licenses will work in the UK. It's recognised. Teresa, you've mentioned the age limit for applicants. So dependent upon what visa you might be eligible for, generally is a working holiday visa, which is currently, and I say currently because it is changing, an under 31 working holiday visa for Australian and New Zealand nationals. However, that is changing this year to under 35 working holiday visa because the Oz and UK reached a free trade agreement. So Teresa, if you're under the age of 31 or anyone else on the call, it's highly likely to be eligible for that youth mobility visa. There is the potential, if you have a British grandparent, there's the ancestry visa. And if you are lucky enough to have a parent born there, you might be able to wiggle your way into a passport as well. So we'll talk through this all as a part of the follow-up. And we've got resources on this on our ANZ UK blog page as well.
There's a question from Victoria and Colette, I can see, about being casual, working like day-to-day temp positions. We still support that here at ANZ UK as well. And there is that opportunity for bank staff, I believe, with LEYF. So that is something that we can chat with and make sure that we can support you in that day-to-day kind of work.
Yeah, definitely. And there was one too from Colette. It's not necessarily a question, but I thought it'd just be a nice one just to touch on. You mentioned that it might be London might be a bit of a scarier place in terms of the size of it. It is a big city, London. We can't deny that at all. But as June mentioned before, and I think everyone who's there can attest to it, there is really little pockets and communities that are scattered across all of London where you do actually sometimes feel like you're in a bit of a small town in a way, even though you're right in the thick of a city. I stayed at a friend's place in Chislehurst, which is in Kent, 25-minute train ride to the city, but you generally feel like you're in a country town, but you're 25 minutes from London Bridge, and you can get to a lot of other LEYF nurseries from there pretty well. So if you do like that smaller country feel, whilst if you want to live within the commutable distance of LEYF, you are probably beneficial to live within the M25 of London. There are some beautiful little pockets in there that don't have that inner city buzz. But if you do love that inner city buzz, you can get that quite easily too. There's lots of places that have lots of vibe, culture, cafes, nightlife in South, East, North and West London. So thank you, Colette, for that. Anyone else wants to pick out any other questions? Timothy, regarding the age limit, if you're born in the UK, we'd have to investigate that one. You may be eligible for a passport, perhaps. We would have to investigate that one. Depends on how long you spent there and where your parents were born. That might factor into that a little bit.
Right. There's a question here from Samina about the interview process and the application, if there are specific requirements we're looking for. Nick, do you want to touch on kind of what the process is again and kind of how they can support themselves in that?
Yeah, not a problem. So with your first point of contact with ANZ UK, it will most likely be Alyssa. You'll send through your CV. There's an apply now button on the ANZ UK website where you can go through and it has all the information that you need to go put forward for us. From there, then we'll be in contact where we can organize your pre-screen. They will be online at the time being, but if you would like a face-to-face interview, I'm actually in Australia in 3.5 weeks on an ANZ UK East Coast tour where I'm going to meet everyone, and I'm more than happy to do face-to-face interviews at that point as well. But after the initial pre-screen from ANZ UK, you have the pre-screen with LEYF with the lovely Naveen and Sarah, and then you go to the interview process with myself and one of the AOMs, the area manager, sorry. And then from there, you'll be offered a position within 24 hours if you're successful.
Awesome.
Perfect, thank you.
And just on that follow-up,
as well.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, just on the follow-up too, it may be Alyssa or someone from Australia as well. So just as sort of heads up on that, like we'll send out some calendar invites too, where you can choose who the best placed person to speak with. But it very well might be someone in Oz, New Zealand, or Alyssa as well. And then as Nick hit the nail on the head there, there'll be those follow-ups straight after that too. But yeah, if you're interested, yeah, we really want to have a conversation with you individually. And yeah, all the slides and recordings, Colette, that will all be shared as a part of the follow-up as well. Yeah, we'll aim to send that out tomorrow. So you should be able to read through that.
Cool, yeah, great. Yeah, hopefully you can get to meet Nick when you get there, Samina.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
If you do the pre-screens and the interviews online, then I'll still be trying to meet everyone if you're on the East Coast there. So after our days out meeting the EC team at ANZ UK, I'll invite everyone out and I'll take you out for a coffee so I can get to know you a bit better. Because like I said, I'll be your point of call for here and I'll be in the welcome crew. I'll be taking you to Matilda the musical. I'll be your go-to person. So I'll be more than happy to meet everyone on my tour.
I'd love to get a ticket to Matilda the nursery as well, Nick, when I come back to the UK. So I might have to take you back up on that. So
it might be a different one, but we thought Matilda was appropriate and it's great.
Yes.
So we're going to see it.
Nice. And our offices are we have multiple offices, but Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne are the three which Nick is referring to. So if you're close to that, then we can yeah, we'll obviously you'll be able to commute into our office during that time.
Just a quick one. Anika has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, just looking at that one, Anika and Colette has a similar question as well. So right now, looking at the pay rates for a permanent position, it is between £24,000 and £26,000. So depending on experience and qualification, will depend on kind of what pay we'll receive. But that's something we can have a chat with in our screens as well. So if we're in the initial chat with myself, Tyler, or someone from the Australian team, we can break that down for you a little bit more. Really go into detail about your experience and about how we can support you.
I know it is quite daunting when you come here because of the conversion rate, but the first month you get your paycheck, your whatever, you're earning in pound and you're spending in pound. The conversion is not as daunting as you think. A coffee is £2.50. So you think automatically in Australia it's $6 or something. So it's pretty much the same. But you're earning higher in Australia because the cost of living's higher. The London conversion, as soon as you're starting to earn in pound, you're spending in pound, and it is not as daunting as you think. So I would always do the conversion, and then I start thinking, no, you're earning in pound, Nick. It's okay. You don't have to convert anymore. I know, yeah, it takes a couple months, but once you get that first paycheck, you're earning in pound, you're spending in pound, so it's good.
Yeah, and the flights as well are really cheap too. So you can jump on London, and go on jump on Skyscanner and kick to London anywhere, and you might end up in Greece or Italy, some of our favorite countries. I done a really cool trip to Bulgaria and Morocco just because Skyscanner gave us cheap flights. And yeah, it takes you 2 hours to get there instead of 24 for us down under. So the novelty of doing that never actually wears off. Jumping on a plane or a train, like Alyssa had said. So definitely one of the exciting things about living in London is that just the sheer accessibility to so many different cultures and cities and everything in between. So
yeah,
a couple more questions
and then,
on the conversion as well. Alyssa or Nick, if you wanted to, we can touch on them.
Yeah, so the conversion for your early childhood teaching, so that's will be your, I'm presuming, your Bachelor of Early Years, early childhood, sorry, that will be equivalent to your level 6 when you go into a nursery, from our understanding. But that's something that we will convert with you and make sure that's all sorted for you.
The conversion's paid for as well by us as part of the offer package if you're successful and your DBS and police check. And if you stay with us for the 2 years of your visa, you also will have your flight home paid for as well, as a thank you for coming, and so you can pocket a bit of money and go on a bit of a Europe trip before you go. And then you get a flight home as well. It's perfect.
Yeah. And I believe the Masters of Early Childhood Teaching, is that the equivalent of a Bachelor as well, Alyssa and Nick? Is that, are we familiar with that one? I know I haven't had that question before.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the Masters. We can confirm, there's confirm all of these qualifications for us. So obviously coming over from Australia or New Zealand or wherever you get these qualifications from, transferring them, there is a whole system that we will go through and make sure that that's all done for you. So we can really confirm what that would look like for you and the opportunities in early childhood for you.
Perfect. And if there's any other questions, like, yeah, feel free, you can pop a couple more in the chat. We're happy to stay on, but I'll just sort of lead off with a thank you to everyone for joining in. You know, we've had some amazing questions. You know, it's really amazing to hear June talk through the London Early Years Foundation in so much, with so much passion, so much detail. So I know I learned a lot off this session myself, so I hope everyone else did too. Nick and Alyssa, your stories and journeys as well. No doubt everyone got some really, really positive takeaways from that. So hopefully this is, you know, giving you more context, more information about, you know, how you can make the journey onwards to the UK. We know how an amazing journey that is. And, you know, obviously we're so passionate about helping people make that trip to London to live over in the UK. Maybe for whatever reason, it's not for you just now. That's totally fine. Maybe it's later on in the year, maybe it's next year. It is a big move, so we're happy to support you whenever it is the right time. Or perhaps there might be someone you know in your network who you want to pass on this information to. So definitely, encourage you to share your knowledge with friends, people in your network, and we do have some referral bonuses as well to add on to that too. But hopefully, what you've learned today is giving you enough information to make that exciting journey. So we really hope everyone decides to jump on the big tin bird, as Alyssa had mentioned, enjoy one of the most amazing cities in the world. So. We'll send a follow-up email as a part of the next steps, and booking a call, and then go through all the steps after that. Obviously, Nick mentioned a couple of exciting things we've got coming up in the calendar. So, yeah, was there any other questions we wanted to just finish off? I know there's a lot of thanks. I'm not sure if I missed any important questions in there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No questions have come through just yet. So thank yous. Thank you all for coming. It's been really great to hear some of your passions and early years and about next adventures, as Colette said.
Awesome.
There's quite a lot of conversions, but we will cover that all off in the follow-up email. And also there is a Teach in the UK webinar, don't forget, next week. So you'll have quite a few touch points from all of us, but thank you for all of your questions.
Awesome. And June and Nick, thank you again. We really appreciate it. So have an amazing evening or morning for anyone who's not on the same time zone as myself. And we can't wait to speak with you in the coming days and weeks ahead.